Unveiling 3 terrifying and sinister janitor horror stories that will haunt your dreams forever. Rachel clenched the handle of her janitorial cart as she pushed it through the dilapidated halls of the old high school. Every creak echoed like a scream. Shadows danced under flickering fluorescent lights. The ghost of some long-forgotten student seemed to whisper her name, and she wondered if she was truly alone. This was no ordinary school. It was an echo chamber of laughter and cries, a place that held dark secrets beneath its peeling paint. Her thoughts turned to Tyler, home under Mrs. Jenkins' care, blissfully unaware of the chills that skittered down Rachel's spine. Was the price for her meager paycheck worth the terror gripping her nights? The school was unsettling. Doors creaked open a little too easily. Items misplaced, never returned to their original spots. The whispers grew louder with each passing night. Then came the night she sensed something even darker. Tools in the supply closet seemed misplaced, as if a ghostly handyman was tightening screws just beyond her field of view. It was as if the building itself had become alive, breathing and watching. She shivered when she caught motion from the corner of her eye, a fleeting shadow darting away. Was it a figment of her fatigue? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Rachel's heart thudded as she returned home one night. Tyler sat on the couch, a vacant look in his eyes. "Who are you talking to?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Tyler's small voice whispered back, "My friend. He knows everything." Her stomach dropped. No child should possess such disturbing knowledge. Who was he talking to? Panic gripped her as she wondered if the friendly Mrs. Jenkins was hiding something. A flickering shadow danced in the hallway, and she felt a cold sweat creeping down her neck. Digging deep into the school's history revealed disturbing tales of a janitor who had vanished without a trace, swallowed by the whispers of time. A small-town rumor spoke of dark things hidden in the walls, secrets waiting to be unearthed. As unsettling events unfolded, scratches marking Tyler's arms like warning signs. Rachel felt the air grow thicker. She looked at Mrs. Jenkins one day, her neighbor's unyielding smile suddenly felt predatory. It haunted her, that eerie knowing glint in her eyes. Could she trust anyone? With escalating fear, Rachel searched for the nexus of everything: her son, her job, her life. Then came the moment that shattered her. Late one night, the school was silent, the only sound her breathing. She stumbled upon a hidden room, thick with dust yet pulsing with a strange energy. Stepping inside, she felt a voice echoing through the air, a bone-chilling truth about someone far too familiar. The whispers had only begun, and they called her by name. Frozen at the threshold, Rachel felt the ground shift beneath her feet. What horrors lay ahead? The shadows wrapped around her like a sinister embrace, revealing that sometimes the most terrifying truths are hidden in the hearts of the ones we trust the most. Rachel's breath quickened as she stood at the threshold of the hidden room. The air grew colder, every chill creeping under her skin like ice. She hesitated for a moment, gripped by an overwhelming sense of foreboding. The shadows twisted, inviting, yet dangerous. What awaited her inside? Curiosity warred with instinct, and she stepped forward. The room was cluttered with old trophies, yellowed pages from forgotten yearbooks, and dust-caked trophies jutting from dark corners. It smelled of mildew and something sickly sweet she couldn't place. The whispers grew louder, weaving a sinister melody that seemed to echo all around her. "Rachel, come." She walked deeper into the room, moving past the remnants of a past long buried. The voice wrapped around her, a soft caress of terror and urgency. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the weight of unseen eyes watching from the corners. In the dim light, she noticed a large, framed photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. With trembling fingers, Rachel straightened it. The faces of students stared back at her, frozen in time, but one face stood out, an older man with hollow eyes. The janitor, she realized with a rush of recognition, the one who had vanished. His gaze seemed alive, piercing through the years, and the whispers intensified, almost a chorus now, chanting her name, urging her to listen. "Why are you still here?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The walls seemed to lean in closer, carrying the weight of all the forgotten stories, tragedies woven into the fabric of the school. "What do you want?" Suddenly, the air shifted. The temperature plummeted further, and Rachel's breath came out in misty puffs. Shadows began to coalesce, figures twisting into shapes both familiar and grotesque. The whispers transformed from words into more frantic tones, the echoes of laughter morphing into cries of despair. Rachel stumbled back, her heart pounding in panic. She spun toward the exit, but the door slammed shut, the wood splintering. "No! Let me out!" She hammered her fists against the door, desperation flooding her veins. The shadows pressed in, skimming against her skin like claws, tugging at her clothes, whispering sweet promises and nightmares. "Your child," they murmured, "we know him. He has secrets to share." The words were like nails on a chalkboard, scraping at the hidden depths of her mind. Tyler, what did they know about him? Panic clawed up her throat, choking her. In an act of sheer will, she snatched the nearby trophies, hurling them at the door. The metal clanged like a symphony of chaos. With each blow, the shadows recoiled, their hold on her loosening, but not before she glimpsed a figure in the corner. Mrs. Jenkins stood there, an unholy smile stretching across her face, as black as the ink on a ghost's page. "Isn't it time to join us, Rachel?" The room shifted, and suddenly, Rachel was back in her home, gasping for breath, Tyler hovering in the doorway with wide eyes. "Mom?" he whispered, a chill creeping into his voice. It was then she felt it, the familiar presence behind her. It was inescapable now, her friend, the janitor's spirit entangled with her life. Rachel turned slowly, fear creeping into her chest again, the air thickening with memories slipping between reality and nightmare. "I need to know," she swallowed hard. "Who are you really?" As her heart raced, the shadows fell silent, a terrible stillness enveloping them both. Tyler stepped further into the room, a lump growing in her throat. The truths yet to be unearthed promised relentless horrors, and then, behind them, something stirred in the darkness, a whisper that stung her senses. "You'll find out soon enough." Rachel wondered if she was still awake or trapped in a deeper, darker dream. What was yet to come? The shadows beckoned, and she knew she was on the precipice of a revelation worse than she could imagine. A cold sweat broke across Rachel's forehead as she gazed into the shadows that danced along the walls. The air felt dense and heavy, as though a great weight pressed down upon her chest. Tyler's eyes were wide, the kind of wide that spoke of unspoken fears lurking just beyond perception. "Mom, what's wrong?" he asked, inching into the room. She turned sharply. "Stay back, Ty." Panic shot through her veins, hot and wild. He needed to hear her, to understand the darkness threatening to wrap around them. "Why are we in this room?" he pressed, anxiety cracking his voice. "You were just, I know." I was," she stammered. "But something isn't right." She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting the shadows to materialize again. They pulsed along the edges of her vision, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. Tyler took another step closer. "We should leave." "No," she snapped. "Don't you feel it? It's not safe." The fear swelled within her heart, pushing her to trust her instincts. She felt tethered to the space, the air thick with malevolence that made her every nerve scream, but then, she remembered the photograph, the janitor's hollow eyes. "Is he here because of you?" she whispered. Who's here?" Tyler searched her expression, confusion etched on his young face. "The janitor," Rachel breathed, her mind racing. "He's watching us." Just as those words tumbled from her lips, a shrill laugh grating, distorted echoed around the room, slicing through the air like a jagged knife. The shadows coalesced, forming a swirling vortex at the center of the room. Shapes emerged, reaching out with elongated fingers, their mouths twisted in mirthless grins. Join us, they chanted, their voices an eerie symphony that clawed at her thoughts. Rachel's heart thundered in response. I can't. I want tea. She yanked Tyler to her, cradling him against her side. The shadows writhed, drawn to their interaction, hungry for the warmth of living flesh. We need to get out of here, Mom. Tyler cried, panic breaking his voice. I'm trying. She shouted back. Desperation pulsed through her. As her gaze darted toward the door, she realized it was still firmly shut. The splintered wood stood as an unyielding barrier, a testament to the force keeping them trapped. Suddenly, Mrs. Jenkins stepped from the shadows, her face contorting into a nightmarish semblance of joy. Time to embrace your fate, Rachel. Shut up. She screamed, but Mrs. Jenkins merely smiled, teeth glinting like knives. The laughter grew louder, pressing against her ears, a symphony of dread. As the figures closed in, Rachel felt time slow. The shadows twirled around her, wrapping tightly until she couldn't breathe. Tyler squeezed her hand. Mom. You can't let them take me. I want to go with them. I won't let them. Rachel shouted, feeling the fierce fire of a mother's love igniting her resolve. Get away from us. In a burst of raw energy, she hurled herself toward the door, pulling her child along. The darkness flinched, recoiling like a wounded beast. They collided against the door, and it shuddered beneath their weight. But just as hope glimmered, the darkness laughed deep and rumbling. A voice threaded through the chaos. You think you can escape? The door buckled under their desperate attempts. A shriek burst from Rachel's throat as she felt something cold grasp her ankle, dragging her back. Mom! Tyler shouted. No! She reached for him, clawing at the darkness that threatened to pull her under. The shadows closed in tighter, and the world around her began to twist. Just as the last vestiges of light faded, she felt a jolt, a reminder of her maternal strength. Fight it, Ty. We have to fight. But as the shadows enveloped them, the laughter echoed, a promise of dread that screamed louder than her heartbeat. And then the world went black. When Rachel awoke, she found herself standing in the school hallway again, a string of memories torn and frayed at the edges. Tyler's absence sunk into her bones as a cold weight. She was back where it all began, but she could feel the taint of the shadows still lingering, haunting her. Mind waiting for the right moment to strike. Tyler! She shouted, a burning urgency fueling her footsteps down the deserted corridor. Echoes mocked her cries. You have to face the truth, they hissed. And just at the corner, a familiar figure stood. The janitor, his hollow gaze piercing through the void. Your child is in danger, he whispered, and you have to choose. Rachel's heart seized. What choice remained now? The corridor stretched endlessly, shadows pooling in every corner like ink spilling across a page. Rachel felt the chill of isolation grip her spine. Every heartbeat echoed, a reminder that she was alone, vulnerable. The janitor stood unmoving, cloaked in darkness, but his gaze bore into her as if searching for something. Choose. She stammered, breath hitching in her throat. What do you mean? The janitor took a step closer, his pallid face illuminated by the flickering overhead lights. To save him you must surrender something dear to you. His voice rumbled like distant thunder, the words weaving themselves into her mind, creating a labyrinth of dread. Get away from me. Rachel backed away, the walls seeming to close in, pressing her against the cold tiles. Her thoughts raced. What could she possibly give up? The idea of choosing between her son and something else made her heart thud with terror. What do you want? She yelled, desperation clawing at her. The words bounced back, unanswered, swallowed by the welcoming silence. Choose, Or lose him forever, he repeated, and the shadows around him swirled and churned, creating grotesque faces that whispered dreadful promises. As his gaze bore down upon her, the faces seemed to melt into a cacophony of screams and laughter that echoed in Rachel's ears, threatening to drown her sanity. Racing down the hallway, she dashed toward the nearest classroom, her mind awash with memories of happiness, laughter, Tyler's smile, his innocent joy. She slammed the door shut behind her and sank against it, feeling the cool wood against her back, grounding her for a moment. In the stillness, she looked around, old posters peeling off the walls, dust motes drifting through the thin rays of light. It was supposed to be a safe space, a memory of the innocent days when Tyler laughed and played. But now, it felt like a coffin, a tomb for everything she couldn't protect. Tyler, she whispered, terror gnawing at her sanity. I will find you. The laughter returned, soft at first, but quickly growing to a thunderous roar. It echoed off the walls, distorting into a terrifying symphony that rattled her bones. Rachel turned her back to the door, feeling trapped, drowning in her own panic. She took shallow breaths, trying to stave off the feeling of suffocation as she looked around, searching for anything, any glimmer of hope. In the corner, a glint caught her eye. A small mirror lay on the floor, a cracked reflection staring back at her. As she approached, the shadows twisted, the faces morphing as they whispered. Look deeper, summoning her courage. Rachel picked up the mirror and peered into it. What she saw sent her stumbling back, breathless. Tyler stood behind her, not here, but in the mirror. He beckoned, his face surrounded by swirling darkness, his expression twisted in terror. Mom! Help me! He cried, reaching out. She saw chains wrapping around him, tightening. The shadows danced around them, hungry for his light. No! Tyler! Rachel yelled, adrenaline surging through her as she slammed her fist against the glass. The mirror rippled like water, distorting her vision. I'm coming! But the janitor's voice echoed through her mind again, cold and relentless. You must choose or lose him forever. What could she sacrifice to save her son? Before she could catch her breath, the glass shattered beneath her fingers, shards raining down like ice. The darkness swelled around her, pulling her toward the fractured reflection, a jagged portal to the nightmare she couldn't escape. Tyler! She screamed, the world shifting beneath her as she felt herself being tugged within the chaos. With one last desperate grasp, she lunged for the mirror's edge, hoping to pull Tyler back from the brink before it was too late. But what will you give up? Echoed the janitor, the shadows swirling, beckoning, waiting for her answer, a choice that had to be made in the heart of this nightmare. And as she felt the darkness encircle her, the next moment blurred into an unfathomable choice. How much was she willing to lose? Would she dare make the sacrifice? The shadows clenched tighter, and Rachel understood her choice was about to become her greatest fear. The darkness was relentless, wrapping around Rachel like a suffocating shroud. She felt the shards of glass digging into her palms, cold and sharp, but that pain was nothing compared to the terror consuming her thoughts. Tyler's cries echoed in her mind, filling her with a fierce urgency. She needed to act, but the weight of the janitor's words hung heavily in the air. Choose, they taunted, whispering through the shadows that quivered around her. Lost in the chaos, she realized she needed to focus. The mirror's surface had been a portal, a glimpse into the abyss where her son was trapped. But now it lay fractured at her feet, a jagged reminder of what she was risking. Rachel closed her eyes, breathing in a shaky breath that tasted like iron. What could she give up? Her mind spiraled. Was it her own freedom, her memories, her sanity? Every option seemed impossible, every thought agonizing. A sudden thought pierced through her panic, her fear. The very thing she clung to most, the dread that often turned her stomach into knots when thinking of what could happen to Tyler. Could she give up her own terror? The weight of that answer crushed her heart. Leave me alone! She screamed, the words flying from her lips. But the shadows only laughed. They formed into twisted figures, mocking her anguish. Each breath felt like an interruption to their sinister whispers that promised nothing but misfortune. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed, vibrations thrumming through her. She turned to see the janitor before her, already through the door, eyes gleaming with dark delight. "You are running out of time. Shut up." Rachel held herself together, summoning everything inside her. "I will not give you what you want." He stepped closer, reaching out a hand as if offering her a deal. "Then you have already chosen." The shadows behind him exploded, darkness swirling into shapes that twisted and reached for her. Heart pounding, Rachel stumbled back, drawing herself into the corner of the room, and suddenly she felt a flicker of warmth inside her heart. Love. The pure love she held for Tyler surged forth like a tidal wave, giving her strength. "No!" she yelled, her voice raw. "You can't have him." Boldness coursed through her as she summoned all that love. The shadows shivered, shrinking back at the sound of her defiance. "Choose." The janitor roared, his face contorting with rage. In that moment, she felt clarity. "I choose to face my fear." The words flowed from her like a spell, and the dark figures shrieked, recoiling from her declaration. Light flickered through the room as if her courage had disturbed the fabric of the nightmare. With every ounce of her being, Rachel focused on Tyler, the flicker of his smile, his infectious laughter, the way his tiny hands held hers. The shadows whispered, their tone now desperate. "You'll regret this," but Rachel didn't falter. She reached for the remnants of the mirror, the shards around her feet glowing faintly as they assembled themselves, revealing a new, intact reflection. This time, it was not just a portal but a bridge, a way to open the gateway to her son. "Tyler!" she cried, gathering the last fragments of her resolve. The glass rippled, blurring with hopeful images of him. "Hang on, I'm coming." But the janitor grew furious, shadows swirling to protect their master, a dark tempest rising. "You cannot cross." His voice shook, echoing off the walls with a thunderous finality, but Rachel wouldn't back down. She stepped closer to the mirror, her heart racing, preparing to leap through, yet fear flickered at the edges of her mind, a terrifying thought. What if stepping through meant losing everything she had known? What if it was a trap? "What will you really give up, Rachel?" The janitor's voice taunted, sharper than glass shattering. What if the price of saving Tyler was her own soul? And as she stood teetering on the brink, the shadows loomed ever closer, threatening to consume her whole. What choice awaited her on the other side? Rachel's heart thundered in her chest, a cacophony drowning out the hollow whispers of the shadows. They grasped at her ankles, their tendrils a chilling reminder that the darkness was not just a background, it was alive. It was hungry. The mirror shimmered, casting a sickly light across her face, illuminating the raw desperation in her eyes. "I will save him," she uttered, her voice trembling but fierce. Each word was a rallying cry against the encroaching nightmare. She could feel Tyler's essence, his laughter dancing just out of reach, urging her forward, but the shadows surged again, dark shapes swirling with a malevolent urgency. "You will regret your choice," they wailed, voices intertwining, twisting her resolve with doubt. They clawed at her mind, reminding her of failures and fears, a spiral of self-doubt that had followed her like a shadow all her life. "No!" she screamed again, her voice piercing through the chaos. A violent wave of energy crashed against her, unyielding, but she held firm. "You don't control me." As though her defiance ignited a spark, the air shifted. The mirror pulsed, the surface twisting like the surface of a darkened lake disturbed by a sudden storm. A crack appeared and began to fracture, spreading out like spiderwebs, each line filled with flickering darkness that seemed to mirror her own fears. Then something changed. Tyler's face flickered momentarily within the fractured glass, his eyes wide with terror. "Mom! I'm scared." His voice echoed through the room, raw and real, piercing through the veil of darkness. The urgency in his plea catalyzed Rachel's love into action. "Hold on, baby," she cried, extending her arm toward the mirror, desperation driving her. The shadows writhed back, as if recoiling from the intensity of her emotions. Just when she thought hope might turn the tide, the janitor lunged forward, blocking her with a hand held high. "Do you truly understand what you're asking for?" His grin was grotesque, a mask of twisted delight. "Nothing comes without a price." Rachel felt paralysis creep through her body, a deep-rooted terror that threatened to snuff out her resolve. As if sensing her hesitation, the shadows tightened their grip, tightening like a noose around her mind. The question echoed, what was she willing to sacrifice? The memory of a family picnic flooded her mind, Tyler laughing as he chased butterflies, sunlight glistening in his hair, innocent and carefree. Would she really give that up just to breach the unknown? The terror of negative possibilities skittered through her, cold and jagged. I can't." The words tumbled from her mouth, laced with uncertainty. The janitor's laughter rolled through the air, dark and low, resonating with the shadows around him. "And there it is, the doubt. You're too afraid to lose what you don't even have anymore." Suddenly, fury ignited within Rachel. Not just for Tyler, but for herself. "I'm done being afraid." She pushed against the weight of despair. The shards at her feet glowed brightly, each one reflecting the kaleidoscope of her love, her fears, her transformations. The mirror shifted violently, distorting images of her life. Her choices, regrets, shadows of her past flicked by, relentless in their assault. She steeled her gaze, grounding herself in the love for her son. "Tyler!" She cried out again, her voice breaking but reverberating with power. "I'm coming for you." With that declaration, Rachel plunged into the fractured mirror, each shard slicing through her psyche and essence, spiraling her downward into a dark expanse. But in that chaotic descent, the whispers of the shadows grew louder, more menacing. "You thought you could save him, but only time will tell what you truly lose." As she fell deeper into the darkness, a single question emerged, echoing ominously in her mind. Had she made the ultimate sacrifice, or had she just sealed both their fates? And the darkness laughed, the echoes reverberating as everything faded to black. What awaited her in that churning void, and would she ever find Tyler again? Rachel felt like she was floating in an endless abyss. The darkness pressed on her from all sides, thick and suffocating. She was spinning, lost in the void, when the whispers clawed at her consciousness, pervading her thoughts like a disease. "Poor Rachel. You're in way over your head," a voice murmured. It sounded like the janitor's, but distant, echoing in waves as if the shadows themselves were taunting her. "What did you expect? To save him without a cost?" She curled her fingers into tight fists, fighting the panic that threatened to swallow her whole. Where was Tyler? Was he cold and alone, trapped in that abyss of darkness she now faced? The void shimmered momentarily, and she caught a shadow darting past her, a familiar figure. "Tyler!" she cried, voice breaking. "Where are you?" The echo of her voice slipped away, lost to the shadows surrounding her. She squinted into the inky blackness. There. A flicker of light, small but radiant, beckoning. It was pulsating, drawing her closer like a moth to a flame. She reached out, heart racing. But as she traveled forward, the shadows lunged forward, reaching, grasping, trying to pull her back into their cold embrace. "Let her go!" A chorus of voices screeched. "She's not the one." Panic surged through her again. "I have to save him." Her determination flared like a match against the encroaching darkness. With every ounce of will, Rachel fought against the pull, clawing through the storm of shadows. Memories danced before her eyes, the sweetness of Tyler's laughter, the feel of his warm small hand in hers, those precious moments before they were taken, before the chaos consumed everything. "Rachel!" The voice was clearer now. A warm, trembling sound that echoed in the depths, pulling her in. It was Tyler. "Mom, please. Help me. Tyler." She surged forward, the light illuminating her path as she kicked against the shadows, her desperation boiling into a fierce rage. She wouldn't let him go, not now. She could feel his presence, could almost reach out and touch him, but the shadows coiled around her, heavier and thicker than ever. "That bond will be your undoing," they hissed, their breath icy and rancid. "You cannot defy fate, you will lose everything." Suddenly, the swirling darkness thinned. The light glimmered brighter, casting silhouettes of twisted, anguished faces woven into the shadows. Those were lost souls, trapped and forever yearning, their wails mingling into a haunting symphony of despair. "Mom, I'm scared." Tyler's voice quaked again, shattering her resolve. A shudder ran through her, a bone-deep chill. "I'm coming, Tyler," she shouted, her voice raw as she pushed deeper into the light. She was almost there, she could feel it. If she could just break free from the binding shadows, but as she broke through the wall of darkness, she gasped, falling to her knees as a piercing scream erupted from the depths behind her. Shadows spiraled into a vortex, and she turned to find the janitor grinning with malevolent glee, stretching his arms wide, as if celebrating her approach to the very edge of her limits. "Welcome to the abyss," he bellowed. "What you face here will change you, Rachel, forever." Rachel swallowed hard, fear spiking. Was there still a chance to save Tyler? Or had she unwittingly walked into a trap even worse than she could ever have imagined? But in the face of her terror, a single thought blazed through her mind: "I won't abandon you, Tyler." As she stood, the shadows encircling her like wolves waiting for their prey, a thunderous crack broke the air, a fracture of light behind her. Something shifted in the abyss, shaking the very core. And then everything went dark again, leaving Rachel standing alone, gripped by the chilling question: what had she really unleashed upon them both? The darkness whispered insidiously, "The price is still to be paid, Rachel." What will it be? Rachel's heart raced as the shadows closed in, squeezing the air from her lungs. Desperation clawed at her throat. She blinked against the suffocating blackness, feeling the cold creeping deeper into her bones. The echo of laughter lingered in the void, a taunt that left her skin crawling. "Mom, help me." Tyler's voice pierced through the darkness again, and she felt it like a dagger to her heart. "Tyler!" she shouted, spine-tingling, trembling with the weight of dread. The abyss rippled as if responding to her anguish, a curtain swaying in a ghostly breeze. She had to reach him. With clenched fists, Rachel tore through the darkness, willing herself to push against the biting cold. "Fate doesn't bend for you," the janitor's voice hissed, silencing her resolve. "You should have known better than to come here." Vision blurring, Rachel stumbled, bewildered by the flickering lights flaring around her. Each light was like a dying star, sputtering in the void. Were these remnants of the lost souls, desperate for freedom? Were they friends, family? A chill slithered along her skin, and she shivered, realizing their frozen expressions reflected her own hopelessness. "Mom, please." Tyler's voice cracked, the sound laden with fear, and in the shadows, she could almost see a form small, fragile. Panic surged anew, and her will ignited like a burning fuse. "Stay close, I'm coming," she yelled, driving towards the shadow. Ignoring the whispers of despair winding around her, she lunged closer, desperate to break through the chilling barrier, but then a piercing wail erupted, ripping through the air, shaking her to her core. The shadows leaped back, recoiling as if repelled by something unseen. A ray of pure light burgeoned in front of her, vibrant against the consuming darkness, illuminating the space with a fierce intensity. In that moment, visions rushed over her, the janitor, dark and twisted, harnessing the energies of the void, the hunger for souls trapped in that eternal battle. The regrets and sorrows lining the abyss surged forward, clawing at her mind. She felt their pull, their longing, as if they too were pleading for release. "Tyler!" she cried again, forcing herself through the blossoming light. Would she risk everything to reach him? Her heart ached with the thought of failing. Suddenly, the light twisted, morphing into grotesque shapes. The familiar figure of Tyler warped, shifting into something chaotic, an endless mass of darkness. She gasped, horrified at the sight. No. This can't be. The shadows laughed, a cacophony of mischief and despair. You think you're saving him, but you're drawing him into the void. Rachel's breath turned shallow, the illusion of safety fracturing around her. She was losing him, losing herself. Just then, another crack pierced the abyss. A rift opened wide, spewing shadows filled with despair. They morphed into monstrous silhouettes, eyes glowing, mouths stretching into grins that echoed the janitor's sadistic glee. Your son is nothing but a pawn, he sneered, delighting in her anguish. No. Rachel shouted defiantly, fighting against the overwhelming tide of darkness. Not a pawn, he's my son. But cracks ran through the light as the vortex swirled, and just as she lunged forward, an icy hand clasped around her ankle. A wave of terror shot up her spine as she felt the grip tighten. Together we'll face the consequences, the shadows hissed, their grip increasingly suffocating. You will never leave this place. Time twisted and stretched as Rachel fought against the dragging force. The rift shrieked, pulling at her body, her will cracking under the pressure. She had to make a choice: fight for Tyler or surrender to the hungry darkness. Just then a memory ignited in her mind, vivid and bright. Scrunching her eyes shut, she pictured Tyler, a child's carefree laughter, summer nights, and warm embraces. Fueled by that love, she gathered her strength and made one final push, and suddenly, everything exploded. The cacophony of shadow screams reached a fever pitch, suffocating her thoughts. The abyss trembled, but in that chaos, a question hung in the air, echoing through the shadows. What do you truly wish to sacrifice, Rachel? The darkness crackled with anticipation, leaving her breathless and frozen with uncertainty. What was the true cost of saving her son, and would she dare to pay it? Rachel's world fragmented in the explosion of light and sound. She stumbled backward, dropping to the unseen ground as the shadows clutched at her. Each shadow writhed, snaking closer, whispering curses in a language older than memory. Rachel, a familiar voice, not quite Tyler's, slithered through the chaos. It was taunting, the way it resonated told her it was playing with her fear. It felt close and far all at once, echoing through the void. Where are you? She demanded, teeth gritted with determination. She blinked against the glare of the light that remained, pulsating, like a heart trying to survive. The laughter from the shadows rose again, deeper this time, throaty and sinister. Do you not see? He is part of the void now. He belongs to us. The dread knotting in her stomach tightened painfully. No, I want to let you take him. She shouted, scrambling to her feet. Where was that light coming from? It flickered, struggling to stay alive against the encroaching dark. She had to reach it. Tyler would be there. He had to be. She raced toward the light, not the familiar spark of her son's laughter, but a different beacon. It danced in mad patterns, drawing her in before snapping away. The shadows surged forward, desperate, hungry, clawing at her legs and arms, tugging her down like an anchor. Fate doesn't bend for you, the janitor echoed again, his voice slithering through the whispering void. Why are you doing this? She roared, as fear turned to fury, though it felt hollow, even to her. Because, he said, emerging from a breach in the darkness, a figure formed of swirling shadows, himself, the void hungers. And you are a perfect feast. With that, he reached out, a hand stretching impossibly long toward her. A chill radiated from him, more frigid than anything she had felt before. Rachel recoiled, but without direction, her mind racing. In that instant, as horror turned to despair, the shadows shifted. A ghostly outline broke through the thrumming darkness, the silhouette of her son. Rachel's heart sank. He was trapped, melding into a mass of darkness, his face unreadable. Mom, help me. The call was softer now, trembling through the air like a fragile glass. She lunged toward Tyler, abandoning reason. I'm here. Just as she reached for him, the light twisted again. It expanded into a blinding wall, and the shadows screamed in resistance. Rachel squinted, feeling that pulsating warmth beginning to envelop her, but it came with a price. Pain seized her as the tendrils of darkness tightened around her arms. "You are so close!" the janitor roared, his voice echoing within the spinning chaos. "Will you step into the light and leave your son behind?" The question weighed heavily as the reality crashed over her like icy water. The horror within her threatened to consume her. "I want to abandon him," she screamed, tears spilling down her cheeks. A roar erupted from the darkness. The shadows skittered, a tangle of shapes howling, churning violently. They clawed at her, pulling her nearer to the gaping maw of despair. Each wave felt like 1,000 needles, shocking her resolve. "Choose." The janitor's voice hissed like venom in her ear. "Your son or your own freedom. Sacrifice one to save the other. A choice." The weight pressed so heavily against her lungs it was as if the abyss itself was trying to suffocate her voice. She glanced at Tyler, his small figure flickering like a dying ember. As the shadows writhed, another thought bubbled to the surface of her terror, a choice bigger than herself. "Please, Tyler." She cried out again, desperate, trying to reach him. In that instant, she felt the pull of the abyss lessen, but only for a moment. The darkness was no longer her sole enemy, it was now a complicated intertwining of love and fear. "Give him to me." But with every gain, there was a cost. She was aware that choosing meant giving something precious away. What would she sacrifice to reclaim her son? As the tendrils tightened around her neck, suffocating her breath, she felt a shimmer of hope and the claustrophobic room shifted violently once more. She decided then, she would give everything. In a rush, she leaped toward the light, right where his silhouette flickered, barely clinging to its shape. "I'll take his place," she shouted, heart pounding, each beat echoing through the void. Phantom hands reached for her, driving her deeper into the shadows as she felt a rending pain. What would arise from this act of despair, and would it be enough to reclaim her son? Tension shot through her veins, twisting the air thick around her. But then the darkness erupted, and she felt the weight of many souls pressing against her, binding her to that terrible choice. What would happen next? Would she lose them both? The darkness swirled violently, each pulse like a heartbeat of despair. Rachel had leaped into the light with fierce determination, but as the shadows closed around her, their chill seeped deep into her bones. She felt an overwhelming pressure, as if countless hands were pulling her apart, but at the forefront of her mind was one singular thought: Tyler. "Don't let go, sweetheart," she screamed, unsure if he could hear her. The void twisted with shadows, morphing into faceless figures, their wails blending into a haunting chorus of despair. Suddenly, a sharp pain lanced through her wrist. Rachel gasped as the shadows tightened their grip, curling around her like serpents, dragging her further into their haunting embrace. She felt her essence unraveling, fear clawing at her sanity, but she fought through the haze. "I choose Tyler," she roared, her voice rising above the cacophony. "I'll take his place. Let him go." The moment those words reverberated through the darkness, an ear-splitting shriek erupted. The shadows faltered, recoiling as if struck. The janitor's twisted silhouette emerged from the chaos, dark energy swirling around him like a storm. "You think you can make that choice?" he hissed, eyes glinting with malicious glee. "You'll regret it." "No." Rachel's heart pounded fiercely, a rhythm anchored in love, drumming against suffocating dread. "I won't regret saving my son," she shouted defiantly, pushing against the oppressive weight surrounding her. The void trembled at the intensity of her declaration. In that singular moment, the atmosphere shifted. Light burst forth from within Rachel herself, igniting the dark with a radiant glow. The shadows shrieked, their twisted forms melting back, losing their grip in the surge of warmth filling the space. "Tyler. Fight. I'm here," Rachel called out, her words solidifying the bond that rippled through the chaos, and then she saw him. Tyler stood within the swirling darkness, eyes wide and frightened, shadows licking at his feet like ravenous flames. Each shard of their connection sparked with radiant vigor, illuminating the depths of their entangled fates. "Mom!" he cried, reaching out. Rachel surged forward, the shadows scrambling and recoiling away from the brilliance radiating from her heart. No longer suffocated by fear, she pushed into the void, racing towards her son as if pulled by an invisible force. "Mom, help me!" Tyler's voice echoed against the turmoil. "I'm coming, baby. Hold on." Rachel's resolve forged a path through the darkness. She could feel the warmth of their love igniting something deep within, the power to fight back against the encroaching shadows. Just inches away, she felt the cold whisper of despair creeping in, trying to ensnare her heart once again. The shadows churned with desperation, seeking to pull her back. But with unwavering strength, she grasped Tyler's hand, intertwining their fingers, absorbing his fear as if it were her own. "Together!" she shouted, feeling Tyler's small hand grip hers tightly, and everything exploded. The radiant warmth surged forth like a wave, pushing the lingering shadows back. The janitor's face contorted with rage, but Rachel stood firm, her love for Tyler crystallizing into an indomitable force. "You can't have us!" With one last surge of energy, the shadows shrieked, collapsing in on themselves. The darkness faded as light surrounded them, revealing endless possibilities in its shimmering embrace. "Mom!" Tyler beamed, his fear dissolving in the warmth of their connection, and then, in an instant, Rachel felt it, the weight of dread lifting, erasing the darkness that had gripped her heart so tightly. The world around them shifted, the shadows flickering away into nothingness. Rachel found herself back in the hallway of the high school, breathless. Sunlight poured through the cracked windows, illuminating the space, giving light to every corner, every forgotten memory. She turned to Tyler, who was vibrant and alive, his eyes sparkling with innocent wonder. "Mom, are we safe?" he asked, a flicker of worry crossing his face. "Yes, baby," Rachel whispered, pulling him close. "We're safe. The shadows are gone." As they stood together, she looked at the school. The echoes of turmoil behind her melted away, replaced now by the promise of new beginnings. "Let us go home," she said softly, feeling the remnants of horror fading into a distant echo. But first she paused, the warmth in her heart wrapping around the chill of memories. "Let us remember the good things, always." Their laughter filled the quiet halls, a melody of hope rippling in the air as they walked hand in hand, leaving behind the darkness that had once consumed them. Rachel breathed deeply, feeling the grip of fear sever. Freedom rushed through her veins, and she knew there would be shadows, but they would face them together, always yearning for the light. As they stepped into the bright outside world, Rachel turned for a brief moment, casting a final look at the school. She understood that ghosts linger in memories, but they were no longer bound to them. They were free forever on the path to healing. And as the sunlight danced off Tyler's hair, she felt a renewed sense of strength and purpose. They had fought against the shadows and they had won. Now the real journey awaited them, side by side. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is crucial for us to keep bringing you the chilling tales you crave.